Hi everybody, Interceptor here. Just gonna run through real quick with this week's religion and Final Fantasy. This time talking about Final Fantasy IX. Now this time we do have a little bit more to talk about. Final Fantasy IX, as many players know, is an homage to the first 8 games, so it really looks back on the series, has a lot of allusions, and just really builds on and credits what's been done in a very nice, happy sort of way. And so we see a lot of returning familiar things after the journey of 7 and 8, so it's back to a medieval setting, and particularly back to lots of crystals being central to the story. The crystals and the way they are used ties in again to what we were seeing in some of the earlier games, but it's a little bit different now. And I think it actually goes back more to a combination of Final Fantasy VII and then something like Final Fantasy 3, with a little bit of Final Fantasy 2 thrown in. So Final Fantasy VII, the similarities are with the life stream. So in Final Fantasy VII, we had this kind of movement of souls into the life stream. In Final Fantasy IX, everything runs on this cosmic circle. Souls go back to the crystal. Each planet has a crystal that eventually dies and returns to the mother crystal. And so it just puts the whole world in this kind of cyclical relationship. Now it gets complicated because there's another planet, Terra, that was dying, and so it wanted to take over the planet you're playing on, Gaia, and that's like thousands of years ago that it first started to happen. And so that's kind of where it ties more into 2 and 3. This kind of chaotic force wants to destroy the world. It's obviously a little bit different because it's not that they want to destroy the world, and it's not that they're chaotic. It's just they want their own civilization to wipe out and replace the other. And so for that purpose, Garland, the person, creature thing behind it, again, his status as a divinity is kind of questionable, but because he's just a leader of Terra, he creates these angels of death like Zidane. I say Zidane. You can say Zidane. I don't care. So he creates him as an angel of death, which is killing off the inhabitants of Gaia so that they can be replaced with the inhabitants of Terra, essentially. Zidane sucks at it because he's a good guy, but that's his goal. Angel is, of course, a misnomer in 2 ways. First of all, his purpose is more like a demon than an angel. But of course, a demon is a fallen angel, so kind of works, but not really. And also, angels are purely spiritual beings, so the fact that they're kind of purely physical in an extent, because they're supposed to be empty genomes that were then filled. Anyway, it's just kind of a misnomer, but fine. They're angels. Angels. I think Japan just likes calling things angels of death because it sounds cool. So I'm not too worried about it. The other feature that's really important is the Ifa tree, IIFA, which is called a tree of life, which is really popular in mythologies. Although its function in this game is kind of the opposite. It's filtering souls so that the Gaians are replaced by the Terrans. So the Tree of Life is kind of stopping the reincarnation process from the way that it's supposed to work. But nevertheless, at its core, what the Aoife tree does is, as far as I understand it, help with the process of death and rebirth. So that's kind of how it fits as a tree of life. And I guess all planets maybe have a tree of life connected to the crystal, and so it's this kind of process. But it's all very impersonal. So again, going back towards something like Final Fantasy III, where there's struggles with chaos, struggles with people facing their mortality, but it doesn't rely on a god, it just relies on mortals and impersonal, powerful creatures. And in fact, the final boss of Final Fantasy IX is something called Necron, which is related to the Greek word for corpse. So it's again, you're fighting death, right? You're fighting to live. You're fighting to keep Gaia and the souls, the people of Gaia, alive. So again, countering the fights with the Cloud of Darkness or the Devil in 2 and 3. So it really does kind of wrap up in a nice way everything that's come before, with having these kind of impersonal, very powerful forces, but life and friendship and all the good things that Final Fantasy stands for winning out. Obviously, inside the game world, they don't really know what's going on. Zidane doesn't know he's an angel of death until the end. I don't think anybody knows what Necron is. He just shows up. Kuja thinks that it's gonna kill the whole world. Nobody in Gaia really seems to know what's going on. Right? It's typical Final Fantasy storyline. But the one religious feature in-game that I can see is there is a pilgrimage. The pilgrimage goes to Estogaza to see the Shimmering Island, which is the life stream of this world, essentially. It's the path for souls in their cycle. Now, I'm not 100% sure, I can't quite remember if in-game they actually know what that is. I don't think they do. But they do have this pilgrimage. It is a religious site to go see it. And so I would argue that part of human nature that seeks divinity and seeks truth knows that there's something happening there. I mean, people can see the shimmering. They know that's not quite natural. They know there's something otherworldly about it. And maybe thousands of years ago, they had an understanding of where people go, that their souls go there. And so I would guess that if there were a religion in this world, which, I mean, there is, we just don't know anything about it, it might be ancestor worship based. It might be based around sacrifice for the souls that have gone before, calling on their aid, honoring their memory, that kind of thing, because we do see that pilgrimage to see the traveling of the souls. Even though they don't quite know what it is, I wonder and I suspect that there might be enough cultural memory somewhere deep that they're responding to. So that would be my thought, that we have an ancestor worship type religion here, with the emphasis on reincarnation and souls and planets returning to crystals and either coming back or breaking down. So thanks for watching. Next week we will get to probably the biggest game. And actually, I would say the next 4 games, 10, 12, 13, and 15, really add a lot more depth, in as much as there are, in most of them, there are maybe gods that are personal gods and not the impersonal crystals that we see. Although, it's still a little bit weak because the gods are not omnipotent, but we do see a lot more explicit interaction between mortals and gods. So check it out next time. Until then, Interceptor out.